Hey there, guys. So I apologize for the delay. Of course, nothing is working the way it's supposed to work. So I think everything is good. If there's any kind of issues you have, just let me know. For some reason, whenever I tried to switch the display, it messed up on me and everything froze. So hopefully this works. It's been a crazy week. Everything just seems like it's all over the place. So let's try to see if this works this time. So I apologize for the delay. It was because of technical issues that the stream would not come up properly. Even though I actually took the time, at least 30 minutes beforehand, to set it up, it still messed up right when I started streaming. So hopefully you guys can see me on screen. Hopefully my sound and everything's working here. Um, Again, I apologize for the delay. It was technical stuff, even though I had it prepared. So we're going to continue to keep going. We're going to keep everything, going as planned. Again, guys, if you do miss any of these streams, they're always available. They say, recorded here on my channel. So feel free to, watch it at a later time if anytime you can't watch these in real time. So again, guys, I do appreciate your time today, and I want to thank you again, for checking out this stream. So what we're going to be going over today is, gym anxiety and sort of judgment in the gym. And in this topic, this is something that I feel like is very relatable to a lot of different people. Give me just a second. I see something is off up here. Let me take that out. Okay. Again, guys, I apologize. All of this, everything just seems like it's all over the place here. So make sure everything's working. So what we're going to be talking about today again is over gym anxiety and judgment. So as we're going over this topic, if there's any questions or anything that you guys would like to share, feel free to let me know. And again, I do have my QR code here on screen, so if you scan that, it'll actually take you to my actual consultation form on my website, or my top form, I should say. So definitely check that out if you want to learn more about online fitness coaching. I do have, of course, my website here at the top right, which is bponlinefitness.com, that you can check out to learn more as well. So, as we're going over this topic, there's going to be a couple different points that we're going to discuss. So, as I've discussed, in some of the previous streams that I do, my main focus here and what I'm doing here on YouTube is really again focusing on who I'm catering my particular fitness to. And of course, this is going to connect to, of course, men who are LGBTQ plus, or 30 plus, and are really starting to, get back into the gym, get back into that environment, and to be comfortable and really put themselves back into those spaces without having to have that feeling of being judged. And that's really what we're going to be discussing today. And I think this is a great topic because I think this is something that a lot of us can think about a lot of times when we, are getting started in the gym and we're really trying to ease ourselves back into the gym. So I think this will give you guys some insight on how to approach that and how to kind of change your perspective, because this is going to be really about, again, like I've mentioned before, our mindset is going to play a crucial role in how we, approach starting a new routine and a new habit, whether that again be fitness or nutrition. How we approach, that is all dependent on our mindset. So these are all the topics that we're going to be discussing here today. So we're going to go over feeling seen versus feeling judged, breaking the I don't belong here narrative, gym anxiety versus reality and what's actually happening, starting again after 30 and letting go of comparison, masculinity, body image, and LGBTQ pressure, building confidence through competence, and creating a safe bubble in the gym. So these are all the points that I'm going to discuss with you guys today. And again, if there's anything, you know, you would like to share anything of that sort, feel free to let me know. And I can, again, relate to a lot of these different points in many different ways. So I've discussed a little bit about my story with the gym, but again, just to reiterate really quickly, as far as my story with getting started with the gym, I was, again, not comfortable when I got started. It was around when I had first kind of had my experiences in the gym. It was around when I was still in high school, middle school, around that age. And when I, really got into experiencing, the gym environment, I wasn't comfortable many times. And I would have times where my dad would take me to the gym and he would, the way that he approached working out was just not for me. He approached it in a different way than the way that I approached it. So it made it a little bit hard for me to try to jump in because I was trying to, you know, base my experience on, the way he was teaching me, in other words. So that's one of the things that I struggled with is I guess I just for the longest time, I didn't feel comfortable in the gym environment, even though I really enjoyed exercise. I'd always kind of enjoyed working out and exercise. And even when I was in school, I actually studied in high school. I did a lot of health classes in high school. I enjoyed, gym class, even though I did have some bad experiences in gym because I was bullied in gym multiple different times. In middle school, I was bullied in gym, and even though, again, I loved the gym environment, it was just a lot of it has to do with people. I think that's the hardest part for a lot of us is that it's the people, and it's not so much the gym in itself. And that's what makes it really hard to get into that environment, especially if we've had sort of that background and we've had that experience in the past. It does make it very difficult. And that's how it was with me. It wasn't until I was probably, let's say 21, 22, when I actually kind of took the chance myself and started getting into the gym. When I had started going alone myself, I was like, I didn't have really any knowledge of using equipment that much. I remember one day I just kind of got a gym membership and I was like, I'm just going to figure this out myself. And, I didn't really want anybody to, guide me or help me anyway. I just kind of wanted to get, a gym membership and see if I can figure these things out myself. And I just didn't want the pressure of somebody else because, again, I'd had that sort of mindset where I kept thinking about, other people around me or like somebody coaching me who just wasn't like we weren't gelling on the same level. And again, that's why I do coaching the way I do and why I've made it a focus to really emphasize the relationship aspect when it comes to really, speaking to my clients or speaking to anybody who is interested in what I have to offer. So I just wanted to sort of start with a preface there because as we're going through these topics, I don't want you to feel like I'm just saying these things to say these things. I do understand the same feeling that you may have if you're trying to get back into the gym, or if you just are struggling because you have that sort of notion on the way people perceive you, or, just being in that environment. I understand that. So the experience itself, so again, there's a difference between feeling seen versus feeling judged. And I think this is a great starting point here to talk about. So walking into the gym and feeling like all eyes are on you, that's what you're going to feel as you're getting started and going. You're going to have this hyper awareness of your body, movements, and performance. That's going to be natural and happen as you're going into the gym. That's what you're going to feel. Interpreting neutral looks as negative judgment. So, what you need to think about what is actually happening is that most people, of course, are focused on their own workout and not yours. A lot of people generally aren't worried about what you are doing. And you just have to, again, this comes with the aspect of changing our mindset with how we approach the gym. this is what you really have to think about. Most people, again, are focused on their own workouts. Quick glances is not going to equal judgment. They're often just awareness. So when it comes to, you know, one thing I would always think about, is when somebody's glancing at me, like, are they sort of judging me when I'm doing things? And a lot of times that's not really what is actually happening. There are a lot of people out there that are kind of observers. And so that's the way you kind of have to see those types of people if you kind of feel like, you know, you're having sort of somebody judging you. I'm somebody who does kind of glance around. And I think too, if you are somebody who just automatically has that sort of notion of worrying about what other people think, that you're doing, you're going to kind of feel that way too. So it could be the same way. They could be feeling the same sort of feeling as you're feeling as far as just being aware of your environment. So your brain, again, this is sort of an anxiety, sort of, I guess, a reaction, sort of you know, just a typical anxiety reaction that you're going to have where your brain is trying to protect you and not embarrass you. You're just, again, hyper aware when you're in the gym. And as you get into this environment, and this goes with anything else, anything else that you do when you get started with, you're automatically going to have, these feelings of anxiety. It's going to happen. It happened to me. And like whenever I had my experience, doing it myself, it was very scary because I feel like I was just kind of walking around and looking at equipment and not sure on, okay, am I going to figure this out properly? And so it's just you're going to when you first start, I think this is the hardest part is getting past that feeling of feeling judged, of feeling like somebody is sort of watching you or, really trying to, judge you in any certain way. But they're really not. You just have to, again, really take your time and not worry about, what they are thinking of you. So the next point that I want to mention here as we move forward is breaking the I don't belong narrative. So again, this is kind of connecting to, what we just discussed in that previous slide. And this is what you're going to kind of feel as you're going into the gym environment is that you're going to have this internal dialogue that you're not going to fit in, that you're going to feel like everyone is more experienced than you are, and you're going to be having that feeling like I'm going to be judged if I mess up. And so these are all natural to sort of have these, sort of thoughts as you're going into the gym. But again, don't let them overtake you. And that's one thing that I always try to emphasize, with, when I speak to clients and when I talk to them, really discuss, when they may feel uncomfortable with, maybe doing a workout incorrectly or maybe, doing something that they feel like somebody's judging them for. And one thing I always try to say is it's best to not overthink it. It's best to not, really overthink what everybody else is, really just their opinions of you. Don't focus. And as we get to the end, I'll discuss one thing that I focus on because I still, even though I'm somebody who works out pretty often, I've been going to the gym for quite a long time now. I still have that same sort of inner dialogue because it's just natural because of how my past experience of the gym has been. And so I still am going to have that internal dialogue. And you're likely, even though when you get experience and you're in the gym just enough, you're still going to kind of have that dialogue that's going to happen where you're just going to have that sort of interpretation on how other people are seeing you. So that dialogue won't necessarily go away. It's just a natural part of it. But as you get used to the environment, it will slowly not be such a huge factor that you're going to think about every time. So again, that belief is built through past rejection or exclusion. So again, like I mentioned, with my experiences, you know, that's how you're going to feel. That's how I felt when I tried to go back into the gym myself. So you're going to, think about those unrealistic fitness standards like with social media, with culture, the comparison to others instead of focusing on self. So this is a big one that a lot of people really emphasize. And I've been guilty of doing the same thing myself where, we see somebody that looks way, way bigger than us, like as far as being really muscular, and then we compare ourselves to them and feel like, we don't belong. But everybody, no matter who what gym you walk into, everybody is on their own specific path. They're on their own journey and what they're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to, pursue. So you have to, again, focus on where you're at, focus on your own journey. We all have to start at a certain point. We all have to, begin somewhere. So just focus on your own journey where you're at today. And again, be consistent and disciplined. So, reality check is that no one is going to feel like they belong on day one. Everyone always naturally has to learn as they're going into the gym environment. So the gym is a practice space and not a performance stage. So you're not trying to, impress anybody and please anybody in the gym. This is just for you to really, again, take care of yourself. The reason we go to the gym and the reason that we, do fitness and things of that nature is so that we can better ourselves, physically. It also helps mentally, as I've discussed previously. So just again, see it as a practice space, as a, I like to call, and I've mentioned this before in a previous stream, I like to call the gym my third place. So basically, if you've not heard what a third place is basically the place between your work and your home. So that's the way that I call the gym. And this is just a place where, again, where you just feel like you're focusing on, being in a place that's where you're able to basically just be yourself and just do your own thing. And that's basically your third place to go to. So I like to see it again as it's a time for me. That's the way that I've started to see the gym, is it's not so much about something that I have to do, but it's a time where I can be to myself. I can do my own thing and I can focus on improving myself. So again, just to reiterate that most people are focused on themselves and not on you when they're in the gym. So the next point that I want to go over is gym anxiety versus reality. So what anxiety says, the fear loop. So again, these are natural things that you're going to feel. So you're going to feel like everyone's watching me. I don't belong here. I'm too out of shape to start. That's one that a lot of people can think about. But again, whenever you have to start somewhere, no matter where you're at, I'll be judged for how I look or move. I have to know everything before I walk in. So what reality looks like, the truth loop is that most people are focused on their own workout, not you. Everyone in the gym has started as a beginner. Progress is built because you start and not before. And confidence comes from doing and not waiting. This is a big one that I think a lot of people really need to, take into consideration more. Is that most of the time we do kind of try to wait for the perfect moment before we can step into an environment that we're uncomfortable with, but we know is going to actually challenge us and make us better for stepping into that environment. And that's how you have to approach it. You have to put yourself into that environment in order to grow and in order to be more, you know, I don't want to say comfortable because you still want to challenge yourself each time you go into the gym, but be able to, get acquainted with that environment itself. So, again, when you get used to being in that environment, when you put yourself in more of those situations that do challenge you, it makes it so much more approachable when you're trying to improve different aspects of your life and you're trying to really, build more healthy routines. So think about it in that context as well. So you belong the moment you show up. So the fact that you're showing up and that you're taking the chance to better yourself is what you need to think about most. That's the most important thing that you should always think about. So the next point that I want to go over is starting again after 30. So like I've mentioned, my main focus has been to, tailor most of, you know, my whole focus on online fitness coaching to LGBTQ men who are 30 plus. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't, serve other, you know, types of men or types of people in general. My main focus is that I want to serve, the community that means a lot to me. And so that's why I do focus the way that I do. And that's why I have made my focus to, this on my business as I press forward. Um, and one of the reasons why I've emphasized really focusing on 30 plus in particular is I feel like, especially for, LGBTQ men, it's often like everybody, likely heard that after you, like, the term, like when you turn 30, that's what is known, quote unquote, as the gay death, in other words. So you've likely heard that term. And so the reason why I've made it my focus to emphasize, more for, men who are in this age range is because it doesn't matter what your age is. It's never too late to take care of yourself. It's never too late to feel confident in yourself. It doesn't matter where you're at. I've worked with different types of men. I've worked with men in their 30s. I've worked with, again, guys in their 20s, as well as, men in 60s, as well as 50s. So there's all kinds of different ways and different times that you can start. So again, I feel like a lot of times, we can tailor a lot to younger people a lot of times. And so I think that's fine. I think it's fine to, for a younger audience to have somebody that can be there for them, of course. But I think so many times we neglect anybody who's kind of older. And so that's why I've made it my focus. And again, I'm 30 years old myself. And, you know, I just think, it's important to prioritize health as we get older. I think it's very important. So you're not late, you're experienced. So your 20s gave you lessons, as anybody can say. And as I've said myself, my 20s were very much a form of a lot of lessons and a lot of, different obstacles that I went through. But it's got me to where I am today. It's given me the knowledge on how I can approach the next coming years of my life. So you're now going to have better awareness of your body, your needs, and what actually matters. So as you age, you're having more awareness of who you are. So this time is different and better. So you're not chasing trends or validation. You're building strength, confidence, and longevity on your own terms. So rewriting the narrative. So one thing you need to think about is let go of I should have started sooner and replace it with I'm starting smarter now. It does not matter where you're at. The fact that you are taking the chance on yourself and that you're focusing on bettering yourself should be your main priority above anything else. So again, I just wanted to share that as well. So this is a big one that can really, connect with a lot of people in many different ways, especially with the gay men, of course. So masculinity, body image, LGBTQ pressure, these are all natural things that, again, we're going to feel, especially in our community, it is natural to have these sort of feelings and, really going through these obstacles. So the ideal body isn't neutral. So in many LGBTQ plus spaces, there is pressure to be lean, muscular, young, and perfect. But this isn't reality. It's a narrow standard shaped by media and culture. So, of course, when we think about, because we are, a diverse group of men, the way we need to approach our bodies is that we are a spectrum. there's there's different types of people out there. There's different types of, you don't what I want to say, another thing too, is that with the gym and with bettering yourself, your main focus should not have to be that you're trying to look the best or like look like just to please somebody else. That shouldn't be your main focus. It should be your focus to live a healthier life, to be able to take care of yourself more. And that's the way that you should actually see, you know, approaching fitness, is that this is not something that should be for just to impress somebody else, but to focus on bettering yourself. And that's the way you need to see it. You don't have to be, muscular or huge. You just need to focus on bettering yourself. And that's the way you need to look at it. So masculinity is not one look. So strength doesn't come from fitting the mold. Masculinity can be soft, strong, expressive, quiet, and bold, or all of the above. As I've explained my personality, I have a wide, like the way that I act as a person, I have a mix of, masculine and feminine. I do. I've noticed a lot of things that I do can be feminine, and a lot of things that I do can be masculine. So there's kind of a mix there. So the way that you express yourself and, again, take care of yourself, don't try to, just because you go to the gym or exercise, that you have to fit the mold of like a gym guy or like a gym bro or anything like that. Don't feel that way. Still, be yourself no matter what. No matter if you're taking care of yourself, or prioritizing your health, still be yourself no matter what. And comparison is the silent pressure. So a lot of times on apps, social media, and gym culture, it can feel like you're always behind, but you're comparing your real life to someone else's highlight reel. So we've likely heard this before. And this is something that I struggled with myself when I was, really getting into the gym, is that I would follow a lot of guys who did a lot of fitness content, and then I would compare my own journey to theirs, and I'd feel like I was completely behind from where they're actually at. And so, again, what people share a lot of times is just the highlights of their life. And that's one thing why, I share the content the way that I share it, and why I'm somebody who likes to be real. I like to be as authentic as possible with what I share. And I like to share the bad stuff that I go through because I feel like more people connect with that. I feel like if we can share what we're struggling with, I feel like it connects more than just trying to share, oh, my life is perfect and great. We're all going to have, our lives are, we go through so much different stuff. And, I think a lot of people do get annoyed when it's just constantly, okay, everything's perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And so, again, just focus on your own journey. Don't compare where you're at to somebody else. Focus on where, your own journey and what you're trying to, become and better yourself into. So, the next point I want to go over, move forward, is of course building confidence through confidence. So, confidence isn't given, it's built. So, it doesn't come from motivation or hype. It comes from doing the work, seeing yourself improve. So competence is going to create certainty. So when you practice consistently, you know what you're doing. That certainty replaces that doubt. Reps build more muscle, more than muscle. So every set, every workout, every habit is going to reinforce I can do this. And again, what we're talking about here is we're talking about, again, being able to, put ourselves in more of those environments that are going to make us more confident as we consistently show up and as we stay dedicated to the process. We are going to naturally improve and we're going to get better at what we're doing. Our exercises are going to improve. That's just like, when we're performing reps. As we do more reps and as we come back week after week after week, we're going to naturally improve our form and our technique, and we're going to be more aware on how we're lifting that weight. And the same can be said for all of our other habits. When we show up to something as much as possible, you know, you really have to think about it as, you're going to really gain that confidence as you continue to put yourself in more of those environments. So again, it all comes from, that consistency that's going to build that confidence. So this is one last point that I want to go over before I do end off today. And this is really important. This is something that I do myself because like I said, I still have that same sort of mindset in the gym where thinking everybody's watching me. So creating a safe bubble in the gym, and this is something that I do myself. So when you approach the gym, focus on it again being your own space. So your space is yours. You don't need permission to be there. The gym is not reserved for a certain body type, identity, or experience level. And limit external noise. So headphones in, playlist on. Reduce your distractions so you can stay focused on your workout, not others. Focus on being in your own space. This is something I do all the time when I go into the gym. I'm always, usually listen to music or, maybe sometimes podcasts every now and then, but most of the time I'm listening to something. And so what I do is just focus on my own space. I track my workouts, so I'm kind of always doing something when I'm at the gym. I'm tracking workouts. Sometimes I check in with clients when I'm at the gym. But I focus on my own thing, what I need to do in there. I focus on my progression. I focus on what I came in there to do, and that is to complete my workouts. And that's the way that I approach it. It's stay, focused on what I need to do. And I have been told that I look intimidating when I'm at the gym, but again, I just really like to focus on what I'm doing, and that's the way I approach the gym. I try to, be in the moment, in other words. So that's the way I approach it. And again, I think that's best for each of us to do that. Just see it as your own space. You're going in there to better yourself. And that's the main focus that you should really think about when it comes to the gym. So that's all of these slides that I have here on this, of course, stream. So again, guys, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I really appreciate your time, and I hope that you found this insightful, helpful, and valuable. Again, if you scan that QR code that I have on screen, that'll take you actually to my website where you can check out, or actually, it's my top form. I apologize. It'll take you to my top form to where you can sign up for online fitness coaching. If you go to my website, it's bponlinefitness.com. It's here at the top right of your screen, where you can check out what I have to offer related to online fitness coaching. There's a ton of information on there. I have a fitness blog that I upload to each and every Friday. And I also have an email newsletter, an email list you can sign up to. When you scroll down to the bottom of the homepage on my website, there's a place where you can put in your email. Again, guys, every Thursday, I'm planning on continuing to do these streams here on YouTube. If there's anything that you guys would like me to discuss, maybe in a future stream, again, related to fitness, or, nutrition and being able to, no matter what your experience is as being LGBTQ or 30 plus, if there's anything that you would like me to sort of share, feel free to let me know. I'm always, really love discussing these topics. And again, the reason why I share these topics is show you guys what I have to offer and how I approach coaching and how I approach, the community that I want to serve the most. So thank you guys once again. I'll have another live stream next Thursday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Also, every Wednesday, if you've not been aware, on Facebook, I do a live stream every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. There's a Facebook group that I actually do that in. And that's where I actually archive and I upload those streams. So if you've seen those streams, that's basically the ones that I do on Facebook. But definitely, again, take the time to check those out live if you have any questions when I discuss on there. But with all that being said, guys, I really appreciate your time. I really hope that this was helpful, and I will see you guys in the next live stream. So thank you guys for watching.